This is a new day, a new beginning.
Welcome back, everybody, to another video, and today we're going to be talking about episode 3 of Ahsoka. And I think it was a pretty good episode, but let's get into it. So I thought episode 3 was actually really good. I love the beginning of it, where we're in hyperspace and Sabine is training with Hu Yang, and then he says like she did good, but she also did bad, and then Ahsoka was like, yeah, let's see if she has a little bit more training, because we know that Sabine was training with Ahsoka before the start of the Ahsoka show, which I thought was a lot of people were like, well, can we see that backstory? It's like, no, but you just get it with that. But when we see her training with Ahsoka and the whole samurai thing, I thought it was pretty cool, because obviously it was like George like grabbed inspiration from it, but when it was like a direct thing from like samurai training, some people were like, some people don't like it because they thought it was a blatant like, this is samurai. But I thought it was pretty cool with the samurai training with Ahsoka, because I thought it was like, hey, this is traditional how we do it when we don't have a lightsaber. And when Sabine was using the masks when she can't see, it definitely gave me a New Hope vibes with Luke, when he couldn't see, but yet he was able to feel the Force and be able to block those shots from the training droid, which was pretty cool. But I think the beginning of it did start off a little bit slow with the training, but as it progressed, it definitely got a lot stronger with the training, which I didn't mind the training. I loved it, because it was like, oh, this is very interesting, because we finally got to see how Ahsoka is able to train Sabine, like how, I don't know, it's not like a comparison where how Anakin was training Ahsoka, because we know that Anakin training Ahsoka was like, he had to push her to it. So I think in this upcoming episodes and in this episode, Ahsoka's gonna push Sabine to train more, which I thought was pretty cool. And after the whole training sequence with them, we jump into Hera's part, which she's with the fleet, and then she gets to talk to the council, the Senate, which is pretty cool that we actually get to see Mon Mothma become Chancellor. But I thought that was going to be Leia, but obviously Leia's dealing with probably Ben at this time and everything that's going on with Luke. But it was interesting that Mon Mothma took it up, because as we saw in Andor, she was like a prominent role in the Senate somewhat, but seeing her be the Chancellor, which was interesting, because obviously the only Chancellor that we've seen was Chancellor Valorum and Chancellor Palpatine. So after seeing Mon Mothma do it, it was very interesting. And when Hera gets to talk and she wants to send squads to see what's been going on, because obviously they know something's up, but when the council doesn't, obviously I could feel Hera getting angry, because it's like, well, can we just check this out? They're like, well, we're not going to send resources on your mission and for a fairy tale that basically, like, why should we send something out there that is probably not in our best interest, and is not like, why should we send them out there if we're going to waste resources when we could be sending them somewhere else to help? And it's like, and Hera's getting very like mad at this one senator, because it was like, were you ever in the war? It's like, no, you just sat back and just see who came out on top, which Hera's been through the war, which I can understand why she was getting so mad. It's like, because she's seen like what was happening, but they don't believe her. And I feel like Chancellor Mon Mothma was like, yes, we'll try, but she's like, everyone voted probably against her for it. And I feel like Chancellor Mon Mothma is not in control as we all think she is. Like, yeah, she is the Chancellor, but I feel like some senators are still loyal to the Empire, and with a lot of them being loyal to the Empire, it's like she is not in control, and she doesn't feel like she's in control, because there's some scenes where she's like looking down and she's like doubtful of what the Senate is thinking, but I think she's not in control anymore, which is very upsetting, because we know that the New Republic is going to fall eventually. If what we see in the sequel trilogy, we know that the New Republic's not going to last much longer in this timeline with Ahsoka. And then after the whole Senate debate and Hera not being able to get the approval, we cut back to Ahsoka and Sabine, and I kind of like this scene too, where Ahsoka's talking about the Force, and It's in all living things. It almost gave me like Qui-Gon vibes almost, and a little bit of like Alex Guinness Obi-Wan vibes, but I know people are gonna be mad about that comparity, but oh well. But I loved it because it was like we're getting more into like the Force and how things work, which yes, midichlorians are, it's retconning the midichlorians a little bit, but I like how like anybody could use the Force if you just concentrate and work hard. It's like anything, like how George said about it, like with karate and stuff. It's like if you train and train and train for years, you eventually will be good at it. And I just love the whole like scene. It definitely gave me more Qui-Gon vibes with Ahsoka, because we know that Qui-Gon is Ahsoka's, I would say, grandmaster, because it goes Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and then her, which was pretty cool. And then when Ahsoka leaves, Sabine tries to move the cup, and she can't because she's definitely not in tuned as much into the Force as she thinks she is, which I think by the end or the middle of the season we will see Sabine use the Force, which I'm okay with it, because as if we saw like how George described it and how it's seen in the Ahsoka series, she will be end up using the Force, which was pretty cool. And when they're in hyperspace, Hera does tell them that they're not going to be able to have the fleet because they were denied it. They drop out of hyperspace a little bit far from the planet, because obviously Hu Yang is like Jedi standard protocols, which I love Hu Yang in this series so far. He's a pretty cool droid. And then once we see them, we see the bad guy. We see Shin Hati, Marok, and a couple of starship fighters just pursue them throughout space, and we see that it was pretty cool to see, because we see how Ahsoka's been better piloting, as we've seen, because she was trained by one of the best pilots in the galaxy, which is Anakin, which we see how much her piloting skills have been better and how they've just matured. And then when we see them fight, we see that Sabine gets on the gun, which is a training lesson for Sabine with Ahsoka, because they communicate better when they're talking throughout the scene. And we see them just take them out until they get close to the hyperspace ring, which they finally see. And Morgan Elsbeth shoots at them with the big cannons that are on the hyperspace ring, which was pretty cool that it had defenses, which I guess for a big ass hyperspace ring you need cannons. But once she shot them, they were just floating dead in space, which I did get a little bit worried, because it's like the Shin Hati, Marok, and the bad guys were like so far away that they had to come in from a very far distance to go after them, which they could have just blown up the ship, but then where would the story go, right? And after they're dead in space, just floating, Ahsoka decides to go out there, which I thought this scene was so cool, because it reminded me of Clone Wars and Rebels, where there's space battles and the Jedi go out there to defend, like in episode 2 of season 1 of the Clone Wars, or what season? In season 1 of the Clone Wars, we see Plo Koon be on the outside with his respirator and just chilling, and then he's defending from the Separatists with his lightsaber, which I thought was a callback for Clone Wars and Rebels. But when we see Ahsoka fighting, people have been saying it's a Mary Poppins moment from TLJ, which I didn't think of that at all. I thought more of Clone Wars, where she's cutting them down, which was pretty cool. When I love the part where she jumped on the wing and then flew over the ship and cut the ship's wing, which I thought was pretty cool. And then when that happens, Sabine's just fixing the ship, trying to get it back on power, and then we see Ahsoka just floating by, which definitely reminded me of Among Us moment, where it was a very Among Us moment, which I thought was still pretty cool. But after they get the engines back online, they fly down to the planet, which they're still trying to get away from Marok and Shin Hati, which after we see them flying through the atmosphere a little bit, we finally get to see space whales, the Purrgil, in live action, which was pretty cool. Which I thought that was cool, using the this Purrgil to get around Marok and Shin Hati, which was very interesting. But yeah, after that, they just touch down. After they get away from Marok and Shinhati, they basically just hide out, turn off the power so they won't be detected. And then they turn back on the power and Hu Yang, because they deactivated Hu Yang because he does draw power when they need a power source for detecting. And then after that, they just lie low in the forest of the planet, which Balin basically just feels their presence and is like, they've touched down on the planet, go find them. And then in the scene, the way it was shot with Balin, I thought was pretty cool, because we got to see, it was just a pretty much badass moment. With when you see Balin on screen, he's just gonna be a badass moment regardless. After that, the episode ends, which I thought the episode was pretty cool, but I think that on Tuesday it's gonna be a wild episode, because the first 4 episodes are supposed to be before, and then there's gonna be a time jump for the last 4 episodes, which I thought was pretty cool. And I will say, I forgot to mention that after Hera is with the council, we finally get to see Jason Syndulla in live action, which I thought was pretty cool, but it was really cool to see him. So he might be another Jedi that we see soon, if after the Ahsoka series, or if the Ahsoka series gets to season 2. But we finally get to see the introduction to Jason Syndulla, which I thought was pretty cool. We finally get to see Kanan's son. But yeah, that's basically all that's happened in episode 3. But with episode 2 coming out on Tuesday, I think it's gonna be a wild ride. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Let me know if there's anything that you liked or disliked, or anything. What's your favorite cereal? Like, anything in the comments. But don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.